Hey guys, thanks for joining us with another video. Today we are working on this Honda K24. You may have seen it recently in our engine dyno program. We had it in its stock form, fully from valve cover to oil pan. And today we are installing a head package to then run it back on the dyno, see if we pick up any power, where that power lies, and what you can do to apply this information to your race program at home. Joining us today is Mr.
Julio Camacho.
Julio Camacho. He is the shipping manager here at Real Street Performance and recently started taking on a few roles in the engine dyno program as well. Yep. So we'll be seeing you a little bit more in the shop and in the videos, right?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So actually this engine in particular is his personal engine. You might want to tell the people at home, you started with a B-Series VTEC, and you're moving towards the K-Series life, right?
So I decided to go with the K-Series because it's a cheaper platform to go with. It's easier to swap and easier to find parts for.
Yeah, recently the B-Series market has kind of exploded. We're talking about 30-year-old engines, and it's more and more difficult each day to find cores, to find cylinder heads, blocks, aftermarket parts too. I mean, there's a lot of great companies making parts, but if you're already buying something aftermarket, it's kind of why they say K is the way. You know, it's a little cheaper just to make more power. So that being said, we ran it on the engine dyno recently. You may have seen our intake manifold testing video. We compared 3 of the most popular Skunk 2 offerings, back-to-back tests with all the data shown on screen so you guys can make an informed decision. The step forward from that was to go ahead and install a head package. Since this is your personal engine, you wanted to cater some of the parts around the type of racing that you like to do. I believe that's autocrossing and that type of racing, right?
So we decided to go with some BC Stage 2 camshaft, a Speed Factory head gasket, and some .1 studs. We also have some OEM goodies and some drag cartel goodies that we're going to install on the engine.
Yeah, a pretty good selection of parts. These are all components that are readily available, nothing exotic, nothing custom. These are literally off-the-shelf units that you can order and have at your door within a few days. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start tearing into this engine and showing you some of the goodies along the way. A couple gems that you might want to look out for when it comes to working on your K-Series engine. And after that, we'll do a couple pulls and see how much power we picked up with these parts. Now what's this? I was just chilling. It almost looks like an oil cap piece.
This engine did have a broken oil cap when it arrived from.
You changed it for what, the K24 with the valve cover?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
so whoever owned this engine before could have had a very bad day. For several reasons, but we're lucky that this didn't get lodged into the pickup and prevent some flow. So, good find. Don't have pieces of plastic right around in the bottom of your engine. Okay, there we go. All right. But now that we've taken off the top section that the cam's right in, we can remove the LMAs as well as access the cylinder head bolts. From the factory, it's just a regular bolt. We're switching to a stud, a little bit better for the performance field, and it's serviceable rather than having a bolt that you can't reuse. Oh, it's tight. It's kind of tight, isn't it? So yeah, did a lot of arm day yesterday, so I'm a little tired.
That's a lie.
That is a lie. That's a big lie. Huge lie. I think the amount of car guys that actually have time to go to the gym is pretty rare.
It's rare, especially when you got a kid.
You have a kid. I don't have a kid.
You have a kid.
Julio became a father.
That's a gold kid.
Yes, my little golden child.
Yeah.
He's pretty cool.
Get her off the dowels.
Oh, a little water. Got the gasket?
Yep.
All right. We don't expect to find any problems here because it was running well, but important to look over the combustion chambers under the head as well as the cylinders, make sure everything's living well, no abnormal scoring. Cylinder head is now off of the engine block and we've gone ahead and cleaned the whole cylinder head. All the accessories have been unbolted. We're now free of any grease or remnants of oil. That way we have a nice clean platform to work off of. We've removed 2 of the valves here for demonstration purposes first. And on this side of it, you can see we have an OEM configuration that is a stock single valve spring with the OEM seat and retainer. And then on the other side, we have the Brian Crowler upgraded components that we're going to be using. Now this Brian Crowler spring is a dual spring configuration, and it does have a titanium retainer for the top and an aftermarket steel seat for the bottom of the springs. And when upgrading those components, it's also a good idea to replace the valve seals, as we're doing in this case with an aftermarket valve seal as well.
For this assembly, we're using an over-the-head universal valve spring compressor tool. It's a clamp style. You also have other options like a bolt-on that will go directly onto a cylinder head if you're using it for instances as keeping that cylinder head on your block. But here we have the cylinder off the block, which that tool allows us to do this at a faster pace.
For valve lapping, what we're essentially trying to do here is get a perfect seal between the seat of the cylinder head to the seat of the valve. That way we have perfect seal of combustion when the combustion is occurring in the engine. For this, you use a grinding compound and a suction tool like this one that you can find here. This can be picked up at any parts store, O'Reilly's, Advanced Auto Parts, AutoZone, etc., etc. These tools are very cheap, but they do a very, very big job. So for this, you'll be rotating the valve into its compound onto the seat. That way you have a perfect seal for the combustion not to escape. And that's going to just make sure you have a healthier engine. As engines get older, you start to lose that relationship between the cylinder head and the valve. And this is extremely important when not only upgrading, but maintaining any engine. Intake side is all done. We're working on the exhaust right now. Something that I like to check when I'm putting new valve seals in, I'll put everything in, seat, then seal, a little bit of lube with everything with the new valve. I'll put this in, put my finger over the seal, and then I'll pull the valve backwards down the guide back and forth, and you'll feel a little bit of suction. On older valve seals, if the guide is worn out or the seal doesn't have its elasticity against the valve itself, then you won't have as much suction. So I know this is new components, but it's just something that I like to do when installing new parts. Now that we have the cylinder head all touched up, the next step in the process would be actually installing it to the block. For this, we're going to be using a couple components we carry here in-house. Speed Factory head gasket. They make a really nice unit that has O-ring integrated in between the layers for the MLS head gasket, and it just helps all around keep the fluid contained within the long block rather than leaking out the sides. For the head studs, we have 0.1 fasteners. This is a brand that we recently took on here at Real Street and we've been working very closely with. We're really excited with how everything comes packaged. It has a brush for your lube to be applied onto the threads. The threads on the stud kits are individually wrapped so you don't have any possibility of the threads hitting each other and damaging themselves. The nuts and the washers come pre-packaged in different packages so that you know that you have everything nice and organized. Next up, we have the camshaft install. We're also upgrading to a 50-degree VTC like we mentioned before. This is going to allow us to have more range for the cam to phase and make a little more power down low and a little more power up top, essentially maximizing the most efficiency out of the camshaft. Along with these BC Stage 2 cams, you also get your timing tag card. This will include all the duration, lift information, as well as valve lash clearance numbers that you have to target. It also gives you break-in procedure, how to rev up your engine, what kind of oil to use, and what window to have your engine break in the new camshafts. So it's always very important to run something like this into your program, have the sheet saved into your folder of parts that you can associate with your engine, and it's always good to refer back to. The rockers tend to want to fall down when putting this whole assembly back on, so you can kind of zip tie them in place like that. Once it's on the engine and placed correctly, then you can cut them off and take it off. Makes it nice and easy. We'd already broken these loose. You want to make sure that you retighten them with a torque wrench. These go to 29 foot-pounds. You're going to reuse your OEM reluctor wheel because that's going to use the same style of cam signal on the OEM and aftermarket cam. Same thing with these, we already cracked them loose before. Makes it nice and easy with a longer wrench. So in addition to the cylinder head upgrades that we've done, we're also switching to a Type S oil pump. The K24 oil pump is a lot larger, there's balance shafts inside, and it's not as efficient as this one is. It's a very common upgrade. There are a few things that you need to buy with it, so if you're interested in buying a kit, just reach out to us. On the bottom of the pump, there is some notching that you have to do. In its OEM package, this will have a vane that follows this section right here, and we've already pre-notched it to clear the bottom of the engine. The main bolts typically run into that section, so it's important to get that cut out, and then you can get ready for install. Small wood screw that pulls out right there. There is an O-ring that seals it, and most of these engines have a threaded section right here. You just block that off with a bolt. A little bit of Honda bond in there. You want to make sure it's a small enough bolt that it's not going to run into this section right there. We have plenty of clearance right there. Blood, sweat, and tears. It's actually all over here. A little bit right there. I'm sorry, Julio.
Dude, you're bleeding out.
Yo, I need a Band-Aid, bro. Go ahead, I don't care. Ah! Now this will be a quick refresher for you guys who have watched our previous videos. This is the K24 in its stock form with the exact same intake manifold and exhaust manifold configuration. With that fully stock long block configuration, we made 254.6 horsepower and 192.5 foot-pounds of torque. Now that we've established the baseline with the stock engine, let's move on to the BC Stage 2 cams and see what kind of power we make. The Brian Crowder Stage 2 cams, we made a peak of 275 horsepower and 198.6 foot-pounds of torque. If you look at the screen here, you'll notice there's shaded green areas not only in the higher RPM, but the lower RPM as well. The great thing about these BC Stage 2 camshafts is that you're able to increase power down low and up top, which is extremely important for the racing that Julio will be doing. In a drag race environment, you might only look at the higher RPM power band, but since he'll be coming out of different turns at different RPMs and different gears, we want to make sure he has a very broad power band, and in this case, he's been able to increase the whole power band to make sure his whole racing experience gets better. The Brian Crowder Stage 2 camshafts are great for this stock block K24, but since it's in an engine dyno right now and extremely easy to work on, we took the opportunity to also install some Brian Crowder Stage 3 camshafts. They don't recommend this on a stock bottom end, but we're already here, so you might as well try it and see what happens. Looking here at our dyno graphs, it's very clear that the Brian Crowder Stage 3 cams, as they advertise, don't do very well on a stock bottom end. If we had a high compression, race dedicated engine for something like a drag race application or a very, very aggressive NA build, they'll do fantastic. But the only gains that we saw with these Stage 3 cams are after roughly 6,900 RPM. I think we learned very valuable information right now testing the Stage 2s versus the Stage 3s. You wouldn't want that on a stock bottom end since you're over-camming the engine. So far, the Brian Crowder Stage 2s seem to be a phenomenal option, and I can't wait to see Julio ripping the car out there with a Stage 2 head package in this little K24. We want to know what you guys would like to see next on the Engine Dyno program. This engine is being retired, but we have other K24 and K20 options that are going on the Engine Dyno soon, so we'd love to hear your input on what kind of applications and what kind of setups you'd like to see ripped on there. If you enjoy this type of content and you'd like to see more of it in the future, please consider shopping with us here at Real Street Performance. By you guys supporting us, you let us do more content to put out to you, and we can all have a good time learning things together. Let us know what you want to see in the next videos. The comments have been killing it recently. You guys have been sharing a ton of videos, and we really appreciate that kind of engagement. It's really fun to put out this content, and we can't wait to keep on doing it in the future. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.